All right, so in this exercise, what we have is we're given a string of, or maybe it's a list, whatever it is. We have a collection of letters, the letter D and the letter U. And what this represents is we are on some sort of mountain, and U represents going uphill and D represents going downhill. And we want to count the number of valleys, which is the number of times that we go from being below sea level to being at sea level. And we assume that we start at sea level. So let's look at the example that they give us. Just a bunch of U's and D's. And this visual gives us a really good idea of what's happening here. So what happens is we step up and then we go down a little bit, and then eventually we return here to sea level. And at this point we have finished a valley. So what we want to do is we want to count the number of valleys that we end up leaving as we go through this course. And the key to this exercise is realizing or being able to identify when you have left a valley. And the way that you can do that is if we imagine we start at sea level, and we call this, like, if we number all of the levels and we start at 0, then this would be 1, 0, -1, -2, -1, etc. And so we see that we have left a valley anytime our elevation goes from -1 to 0. So that's going to be sort of our procedure for this. We're going to sort of loop through all of the D's and U's in this string, and we're going to keep track of how many we're going to keep track of what level we're at. And any time our level goes from -1 to 0, we know that we've left a valley. So let's go ahead and code this up. So what we need to do is let's see here. This is write your code here. So we want to count the number of valleys. We're going to start at 0. And then for at every step in the process, we want to know what level are we at and what was our previous level. Because when our current level is 0 and our previous level is -1, or I say level, I mean elevation. Whenever our current elevation is 0 and our previous elevation is -1, that means that we've left a valley and we can increase our valley count by 1. So we'll say previous level equals 0 and current level equals 0. This is the only time when previous and current level will be equal, because normally they'll be off by 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to loop through path. And we're going to loop through all of the characters in path. So what we're going to do is we first update previous and current level. So previous level equals current level, because basically every time we increase I by 1, we're going one step forward. And so what used to be the current level is now going to be the previous level. And so that's how we determine the previous level. What the current level is depends on whether this current step has us going up or down. So if the ith entry in path is U, then that means we're going up, which means that current level, if I can spell correctly, current level needs to increase by 1. Otherwise, the ith entry of path is D, in which case current level goes down by 1. And then the last thing we need to do is determine if a new valley has been added or completed, whatever you want to call it. And again, the way that we determine this is if current level is 0 and previous level is -1, then we've completed a valley. And so we increase the valley count by 1. Oh, it's valleys. All right, and that's it. So when we're done, we return the number of valleys. All right, so this should work. So let's run the code just to test it. Okay, I did something wrong. So let's think about it. My output was 0, and the expected output was 2. All right, so this is good. This gives us a way to sort of see how to troubleshoot this. So if the ith entry is path, So how would I go about debugging this? Let's go ahead and, so current level starts at 0. Let's go ahead and print current level. This is a very standard technique, is you just sort of print where you are. Okay. Well, I guess it would be helpful to if we also printed the ith entry of path as well. Is this how you print two things together? Let's find out. It is, okay. So we went down to -1, down to -2, up here, down, down, up, up, down. And my output was 0 when it should have been 2. That is really interesting. So if current level is 0 and previous level is -1, okay, so here's the issue. I didn't indent these. There we go. So yeah, basically I was only checking, like you need to check if you're at a valley at every stage in the loop. Obviously, it was just a matter of missing the indent. But yeah, so that's how I would go about troubleshooting that if I was like doing this in an interview and I ran into an issue. Just throw a print function in there, sort of see what my code is doing, and sort of troubleshoot from there. And I just happened to catch that I had the indentation incorrect. So let's run it. All right, seems to work now. Let's submit it, do all the test cases, and it works. So yeah, there we go. So once you sort of think about the problem, and it's important to like take some time to think about the problem and think about how you're going to approach the problem before coding. Because once you sort of realize that the best way to approach the problem is to say, well, you know you've completed a valley if your elevation goes from -1 to 0, that gives you a very clear way to go about coding. And so you do that, and then you also want to make sure that you have your indentations correct. And as long as you do that, that's how you solve this problem. So there you go.